Coming up next on Hands on Windows, we're going to take a look at apps, not specific apps, but some of the many ways you can configure apps and use apps in Windows 11, especially those things that have changed in Windows 11 version 23H2.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
The following show is brought to you through the generosity of people like you. Thanks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hands on Windows. I am Paul Thurrott, and this week we're going to talk about apps. Maybe not the discussion you thought we were going to have, but Windows 11 supports lots of different kind of apps. I don't think that's a big secret. For the most part, you don't have to think about that too much. It is interesting to me, though, that Microsoft is shifting away from its universal app strategy. This was the mobile app platform they first created in Windows 8, and that they're switching many of their inbox apps, meaning the apps that come with Windows today and Windows 11, from those mobile technologies over to different technologies, some of which are kind of hybrid apps, which is like hybrid mobile desktop type apps, but more commonly web apps, right? Some of the key apps in Windows today, like Clipchamp, Microsoft Teams, many others, are actually web apps. And that kind of tells you how far that's gone. One of the interesting things tied to that is that the Microsoft Store, which used to be called the Windows Store back in Windows 8, when it debuted, it only provided those mobile apps, which eventually were called Universal Windows Platform Apps or Universal Apps, right? Today, as far as apps go and games, honestly, it can deliver any type of app. Developers can package their apps in different ways and allow them to be downloaded through the store. And so when we talk about store apps, we're really talking about a delivery mechanism and then servicing. And so it's sort of like downloading an app, updating an app, and keeping it secure, right? This is all on Microsoft. And so they do this all through the store. And the store isn't a big enough topic, and it has changed enough since the last time we talked about it, that we'll do an episode on this at some point and then in the near future. So instead of looking at how we get apps and how things in the store look today and so forth, I want to look at some of the kind of unique ways that you can configure apps in Windows 11. Some of this is new or has changed, at least in Windows 11 version 23H2. Some of it is just really obscure, and I feel like even power users aren't aware of a lot of these features. So let's kind of just step through it. Most of this is going to occur in the apps section of the settings app. There's one major feature, at least, that is actually elsewhere. We'll get to that in a moment, but most of the work we're going to do today is going to start here. So I'm going to start in advanced app settings for some reason, but rather than basic app settings, I guess. But this is, again, one of those things I think most people don't know about. It has this option in here called choose where to get apps. By default, this is going to be set to anywhere, but you can also set this to other things as well. And this is actually very interesting because this dates back to something called Windows 10S, which morphed into S mode and is now mostly gone. Although technically you could buy a Windows 11 home PC low-end computer that was configured this way by default. But the difference is it's not a mode for the operating system to run in that can't be reversed, right? Windows 10S and S mode were kind of a one-way dead-end street. You could not go in and say, well, look, I need Google Chrome and I need, Adobe Photoshop. But then after that, we're going to just download apps from the store. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to try to be as safe as I can. Windows 10S and S mode did not allow that. Today, you could technically do this. You could go install your apps and then come in here and say, I'm going to choose one of these store options. I think the Microsoft Store only is a little radical for most people. The store has gotten a lot better. Again, we're going to talk about that later. But one of these other options is actually kind of interesting because I think of this as almost like the third brake light on the back of a car. If you choose this option, for example, and you go and download, say, Firefox, which is an example of an app that's in the store and on the web, it will actually pop up a dialog and say, hey, you can download this, but there's a safer version of it that's in the store, and we'll keep it up to date for you. You never have to worry about it. So you might want that option. You also might want to just be warned. You just get a warning. It will go through with the install, but it will just give you a warning. So you can choose one of those if you want. Kind of gives you the benefits of Windows 10S without any of the downsides, frankly. So I think that's kind of a I think it's an interesting option that most people don't know exist, and most people, the few who do know, just don't choose. Okay, so that's one. Previous to Windows 11 23H2, when you went to uninstall an app, and there's a whole list of ways you could do that, it would behave differently depending on what type of app it was. For example, you can uninstall web apps from within, web apps you've installed from Edge, you can uninstall from within Edge, or you can uninstall them from the start menu, or you can uninstall them from various places. Desktop apps in the past, if I were to right click Excel, and choose uninstall, it would actually run the Windows control panel, that legacy UI, and go to the part of the control panel where you can manage the apps that are installed on the PC. So this is one of the things that's changed in 23H2. If I were to click on this, it doesn't run the control panel. Instead, it goes to that installed apps list. And this is interesting for a couple of reasons compared to the old way of doing things. One is it's in some ways friendlier, right? This is a more modern interface. But also, I just told it to uninstall Excel, and it went to this list of apps. So I don't, it didn't actually give me Excel. So I have to go find that thing. And in Excel's case, is Excel even in here? I don't see it. So I could type in Excel, and it doesn't come up. So it's not necessarily friendly. And of course, the reason it doesn't come up is that this thing is actually not even the right app. This thing is something else. It's probably Microsoft 365. Yes, ENUS, that really friendly name. So in some ways, this is a little strange. I could uninstall it from here. It doesn't help that we have two apps here with the same name. That happens with Microsoft Teams as well. But it is consistent. And so the point of that is if I go in here and say, let me see if I can find an app I don't really care for, LinkedIn, for example. This app is a mobile/store app. If I uninstall that, it's going to say, sure, goes away. This app, I actually have to go to the app list, right? So it's just a little friendlier. But in the old days, what it would do is, like I said, run the control panel. So I'll just bring up the control panel, which is still there. So this is where it used to go. And in this case, it actually would have highlighted the app you were trying to. So in a weird way, this unfriendly looking UI would have actually been more friendly, right? In this one instance, but they're changing it. They're trying to get rid of all the control panel stuff. And so that's why. It's just, but for the most part, what you're going to do is right click apps you can uninstall and uninstall that way, right? So that's pretty simple. The other thing that's new and for the worse in Windows 11 is the way that default apps work, right? So if we go back out to this app settings list, you'll see default apps. So I feel like Windows has probably had a default apps type interface since possibly as long ago as Windows 95, but certainly Windows XP. And the idea here is that you have an app that you like, that you want to use for different file types. So for example, I'll just get this started now since this will take a little while. If I go into the Microsoft Store and I say I want Photoshop Express, which I don't think anyone has actually ever said, but let's pretend I do. And I say get it. So we're going to download that thing. So I'll let that go in the background. I have other apps, so I'm going to use a different example while the other thing's downloading, but say, use a simple example, something that's not going to have a million file types associated with it. I could go down to Notepad, if I could find it, click on it, and what this will do is show me all of the file types and link types that it supports. In Notepad's case, it's file types, right? Obviously, it opens files. So mostly text files. If I click this, if I had another app in here and I don't, well, I guess Word would work. I could say, no, I really want to use Word. I want that to be the default, right? So you could do that. The problem is you have to do it on a, case by case basis. So there's only, 7, 10, whatever file types in here. But if I wanted to make that change, it's kind of a pain. I have to do those one at a time. In the old days, I could come in here and say, make Notepad the default for every single file type that it can open. Sometimes you don't want that, but if you want an image editing or image viewing program and you have a very specific one you want, yeah, you would want to do that. And today that's a nightmare. So unfortunately, that's gotten a lot worse. You can also do it by file or link type. So link types, by the way, are associated with web browsers. So if I type in HTTPS, that's a link type. It will tell me, in this case, it's Edge. I can click on this and this will actually bring this thing up. I don't actually have to go into change this. And so that's kind of nice. But I think most people probably are going to go into the apps. I think this is kind of the way most people probably think. And so if I go into Edge, for example, you can see the little customization they make. You only see this in Web browsers, actually, let me go out. Let me find a different one so I can change it. So in this case, Brave, the web browser, is not configured as the default for anything. So if I click set default, that will change 4 things: 2 file types, HTML, and HTML, and also the HTTP and HTTPS link types, right? So this is the default browser. Edge is still going to be used for a lot of other things. And again, there's no way to click and say, I always want to use the browser that I want. This is one of the kind of strange problems with Windows 11 today. And I'm just going to put this back to where it was before. Okay. So I assume that app has downloaded by now. Yep. Here it is in the list here. So let me go find an image file. Because I just downloaded an app that can open this, we will see that interface on the fly, right? So if I double click, it's going to say, hey, wait, you have a new app that can download this. Do you still want to use the old one you were using? Or do you want to use this new app? I'm not going to change this because I use this app very specifically, but you could do that here. And again, it's not, in a way, it's nice that this thing pops up. I'm going to just leave it as it was. But in some ways, it's also kind of annoying because you might have gone to the trouble of one by one setting that app, link between the app and the file type or link type. And then you install another app, and now every single time you open an app you want to open in your favorite app, it's going to ask you about this other app. And it's just, unfortunately, the way life has gone with Windows 11. So they've just made it trickier to do that kind of thing. It's unfortunate. You can also configure where some apps are installed, right? So when you install apps from the web, you typically aren't given a choice, or if you are given a choice, you're going to be looking at parts of the file system where apps have historically been installed. The program files folder, for example, or program files x86, right? The 32-bit version of that folder. There are actually hidden folders now in Windows where a lot of apps are installed, including some apps from the web, by the way, which is a little strange. But any app you get from the store is going to install in some hidden secret location. So you can't really change the there is no folder. There's no one folder where apps are installed. But what you can do is, I'm in the wrong place. I told you there was one that was in a different place. This is the one. So actually, you configure this in storage settings, right? Under advanced storage settings here at the bottom. Sorry. So there is a way, if you scroll down and look at this option, it says where new content is saved. You can go in here and change the drive. So the interesting thing about this is if I change this to the D drive, right? Very standard for a computer to have maybe a small SSD for the boot drive, the Windows drive, and then a bigger data drive or whatever. If I wanted to use this for new apps, which I'm not going to do actually on this computer, but if I did, future app installs would go to that drive, but they would still go to some folder structure that would duplicate what's on the C drive. So for example, if I later installed a store app, it would install in a hidden folder on the D drive instead of the C drive, right? So, okay, that's okay. I mean, it's not bad. It still kind of solves the problem. But of course, you have all these apps that were installed in C, and if you're trying to save space, you might want to move some of them as well. And that I have to go back to the apps settings interface, and we go into that installed apps list again, which is just an alphabetical list of the apps, unless you change how it's listed. And most of these apps, if I go to Brave, for example, Brave is an app I downloaded from the web. There's no move. I can't move this to the D drive. This thing's installed on C. If I wanted to put it on D, I would have to uninstall it, reinstall, do a custom install if it's available. I'm not even sure on this app, and tell it, no, I don't want you on the C drive. I want you on the D drive. So it's kind of a manual process. A lot of the built-in apps, there's actually a move option, but it's grayed out, meaning you can't do it. They're not going to let you move a bunch of those apps. So you have to find an app from the store that you could move. I suspect this one would allow me to. Yep. So this one will allow me to move it, and I can choose. There's only one other choice, right? So I have a C drive, which is where it is now. D drive is the other choice. I click move. This would offload it from the C drive and put it over there. Not going to save a lot of space. This is about the size of an MP3 file, but some store apps are humongous, and of course some games are particularly humongous. So this can be a useful thing to know about if you want to move those apps. The final thing I want to talk about is startup apps. And I've been around a long time, so kind of as an old timer, I look at things kind of the old way of doing things. And we have always managed this with Task Manager, right? So you right-click the taskbar, Task Manager. Task Manager has this option here. It looks like a little speedometer. This is the startup apps area. And what this shows is it's called startup apps. It's technically apps that run when you sign into your Microsoft account or into your any account, whatever account you have, right? It's not going to run when the computer boots because you might have multiple accounts. It's going to run when you sign in, right? So these are the things that can start up. It's not sorted. Well, I guess it's sorted alphabetically. So this isn't a particularly great view. If it's disabled, that means it's not running at startup or sign in. If it's enabled, it means it is. My advice here is to sort this by status, and then you can look through this list. A classic thing to get rid of is the consumer version of Microsoft Teams. Disable that. If you don't use Microsoft Edge and you're using Chrome or Firefox or whatever, disable that, right? So you can kind of look through this list. You're not going to know what all these things are. You might want to Google some of them. Some of them are essential services. This thing here, for example, I don't believe my sound would work at all if I didn't let this thing run. Some things are not so essential. So you have to sort of figure that out. Google, Bing, whatever is your friend in that case. But as it turns out, in Windows 11 version 23H2, another new feature they've added, a startup settings under app settings. It's the same interface, just modern. It's sorted by name by default. Again, sort by status, and then make your selections. It works exactly the same way. So that's kind of cool. This also offers this startup impact sorting. So the apps at the top are going to impact the time between you hit enter on sign in and the time when your computer's sitting there ready to roll. We're talking sub-seconds in most cases. I mean, these things usually happen pretty quickly, but Screenshot, Microsoft Edge, and Microsoft OneDrive are all high impact. This thing is a third-party utility that I use. Microsoft Edge and OneDrive obviously come with Windows, and for most people are essential services. So you're probably not going to disable those things at startup, but you might want to think about this one because if it's not essential every single time you use the computer, you can just launch it later. You don't have to auto launch it when it starts. I auto launch it here because this is a computer I take screenshots on right for the book. So that's actually something I want. So that's what you can configure. But there is one more thing related to startup apps, which I think, again, almost nobody knows about. And frankly, most people don't need, but what if you wanted an app to auto start, right? You can't arbitrarily add apps to those lists I just showed you, whether it's in Start, Task Manager, or the Settings app. So how do you add an app so that it auto runs every time you boot in, and sign into your computer? Well, there's a way. The first thing you have to do is get a shortcut to the app you want to start. Now, most people would go into the Start menu and kind of try to find this stuff. Turns out, getting a shortcut is very difficult, impossible really in the Start menu. So fortunately, there's a hidden shell location, which is a virtual folder that shows you all of the apps that are installed in a computer, no matter where they are. It's not a physical folder location in the file system. And the way you get to that is through, well, there's various ways you can do it, but I use this Run app, which is kind of the old Start menu. You had to have the exact app name for this to work. So I could type in Notepad, for example, and Notepad would run. Okay, that's fun. But if I don't know the exact name of the app, it's not going to work. So what you type in here, and actually I've done this before on this computer, so I can just see it, is shell:/apps folder. And this will open that virtual folder I was talking about, right? And here you can see all the apps I have installed in the system, alphabetical order, et cetera, et cetera. And you can pick one you want, or the one you want to auto start when you sign in. I'm going to choose Notepad, simple app, whatever. Create a shortcut. It's going to tell you can't create it here because this is not a real place. This is just a virtual view of other locations. It offers to put it on the desktop. It's your only choice. That's okay. You say yes, and now you've got a shortcut. I've got compulsion problems. So I'm going to rename this thing to something simpler, but there's Notepad. So the next step is you have to put it someplace, right? And we're going to use that Run dialog again, which is Windows key plus R. I should say I didn't actually demonstrate it. You could type it Run that way, but I've been using the Windows key, just a shortcut thing. And instead of shell apps folder, it's shell startup. And this is the startup folder in the Start menu. And actually, this is an actual folder location. In fact, it's a hidden folder location. That's what this app data, roaming, et cetera, et cetera. So you could navigate to this folder directly. Let me do a tab here if you wanted, and you could get into it. But if you go up one level, you don't see it here, right? It's hidden, and that's the point. And a lot of the stuff that's in here are these app installs. That's a big chunk of it. So this particular folder anyway, just move that into there. So now I've got Notepad there. I moved it out of OneDrive, so I get that warning. When I reboot the computer, which I can't do now, obviously, because we're recording, but what will happen, obviously, is that Notepad runs, right? And that's what that may be what you want. Not Notepad, probably, but, and I'm going to delete that because I don't want anything. I want as few things running as possible when I boot into my computer. So there you go. Something new, a couple of new things, a couple of, I think hidden things that people don't know about or kind of forgot about or whatever. And hopefully that's useful to you. I think it is. And we'll be looking at apps more in the future. Like I said, we're going to do an episode about the Windows Store sometime soon because some of that stuff has changed too. So thank you for watching. We will have a new episode every Thursday. You can find out more about the podcast, about all the episodes we've created at twit.tv/HOW. I want to thank everybody for watching, especially Club TWiT members. We really appreciate your support. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.